boaters. Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Robert, and part of my channel also includes boat maintenance and how I do it to keep my Larson dry, clean, and well maintained for each boating season. So this video, special request to one of my subscribers, Sneaky Panda. He or she, not sure which, but anyways, you've asked how I keep my Larson with my Mercury motor winterized, and I'll just go through the steps. I've done a lot of the maintenance videos already. They're on my channel. I'm going to blend them in to this video and combine them in a one-stop shop video for you and all other viewers that are interested in doing your own maintenance on your own boat. So one thing to note, this is the way I do it. It may not necessarily be the way that your boat needs to have it done, but just take note that it's not all that hard unless you just like to pay somebody else to do it for you, which can add up to a lot of money. Okay, so the things you got to think about if you're going to do your own maintenance and winterize your own boat is how are you going to keep it dry and clean during the winter, especially if you're in a snow area. Are you going to shrink wrap it? Are you going to cover it? Or do you have the luxury of a garage or that type of thing there? Now, in my case, I looked at all the different options, and I looked at shrink wrapping, where you hire somebody to come and shrink wrap your boat with that blue shrinkable plastic and put some 2x4s in there to stick it up so the snow doesn't cause it to sink. And that is roughly about $20 a foot average, give or take, here in Canada. And my boat is 20 feet long, so I'm looking at over $400 just to shrink wrap. And when you think about it, what do you do with the shrink wrap when you go get ready for spring season? You tear it off and throw it in the garbage. So that's just more adding to the landfill site. So I decided to go with this garage in a box round top. It is 12 feet wide by 24 feet long by 8 feet high. Okay, so this is the perfect size for my boat being on the trailer, and I will show you next what it looks like. I put this up myself every fall, take it down in the spring. I know some of you are thinking, holy cow, that's a lot of work, and I only paid about $4.99 for this when it was on sale at Canadian Tire. You know, it's already paid for itself after the first season there, just shrink wrapping. And the bonus is you can store a few extra things in there during the winter too, along with your boat. So here it is. I've already got it up. After this little segment, I will add the video showing it as well, taken apart. But one thing to note, that every city is different across Canada, the US, and perhaps around the world. But different cities have different laws. So in my city, there is no rule to have this in the driveway. But don't assume that your city is the same as mine, and you might have a bylaw you never heard of where you can't park your trailer or your boat or even put up a temporary garage in your driveway. So this one here, I put it up myself. It takes a little longer, but after the third season, I got used to putting it up, so it took me about half a day to get it up here. And this keeps my Larson nice and dry. And like I said, you can add a little extra storage in here too. So something to think about if you've been paying somebody to shrink wrap it, or been paying somebody to store your boat in a garage or a barn, that this might be an option you might want to consider switching over to, just to save on the environment and have peace of mind that, you know, you're doing something to keep your boat safe here. Okay, boaters, today I'm just going to show you how I winterized my boat. Some of you boaters that are getting into it this year, by the end of the season, you're going to wonder, what are you going to do with your boat to keep it protected from the winter? You could shrink wrap it, but what I did is when I looked at the cost of shrink wrapping, I calculated that this shelter, when it was on sale, would be exactly the same price as doing one season of shrink wrapping. So I'm going to do the disassembly today. If you stay tuned to this channel in this video, you'll see the reassembly this fall. But this is sold by Canadian Tire, and it's the garage in a box. It's 12 by 24 by 8, and the bow rider inside is a 20-foot Larson. Okay, so let's get to it. Alright, okay, first step in the reverse assembly procedure is I'm going to start taking all these tie downs off here so I can get the tarp itself off. Okay, so just to quicken things up, I'm going to use my DeWalt with a socket attached. Alright, next step is there are 4 ratchet straps holding the front and rear sides in there. These I'll next take off to allow access to the side of the canopy. Now that ratchet straps are free, what we're going to be doing is taking these brackets off so we can slide the side and the front and rear canvas out from in here, because as you can see it's being held in place by this here. So we're going to do that next. This is another little tip I'm going to do for myself and anybody else who wants to do the disassembly like I'm doing. You're going to notice when you open the box that these poles, even though they are individually numbered, like this one here, and they try and keep them in groups, they don't bundle them together. So when you're putting this thing together, another thing that slows you down is trying to figure out where all the poles are when you're in that section of assembly. So probably be best if you're putting this together to take all the poles and put them into groups before you get started, rather than take them out of the box one by one, and hope you get the right one. Alright, let's continue. Alright, we have the main tarp off, and we can see the skeleton of the garage. So we'll just fold this up, and the front and rear sections, maybe get them back into the box with the poles, but we'll wait and see. Okay, stay tuned for that one. Alright, tarps are all folded up. Now let's take the rest of the frame apart. What I'm going to do is, like I did when I was putting it together, I'll take the center top spine off since I'm by myself, and then work on the sides and take it apart. Alright, the last item is to take the stakes out of the ground that we're holding one side on the grass side. I'll twist those out with a bar. Canvas. Alright, canvas is all folded up. Bow rider's uncovered. And poles are back in the box. But as you can probably see, we're not going to get the canvas in there with it. So I'll just store it separately. That is the conclusion of this disassembly of Canadian Tire's Garage in a Box Round Top Extra Large. Okay, and if you're interested in this, I'll zoom in on the product code for you. And if this has been helpful, this video, like it. And if you'd like to see how things go this fall, then subscribe and you'll catch the video for sure. Thanks for watching. Now, I've been asked by my viewers, especially one, what are the steps I'm going through to winterize my boat and get it ready to put away for the winter season. So, as I mentioned, the Garage in a Box by Shelter Logic There is the model number. In case you are in Canada, want to look at something similar, I suggest you watch the flyers. Make sure if it's on sale, you go for the sale there. Now, the other things you're going to need, adjustable wrench or a ratchet set. I like to use both. The adjustable works good for the drain plug and the battery connections, and the ratchet set also is handy for the battery connections too, just loosening them off. Okay, because I do take my battery out for the winter, store it in my garage on a shelf, not on the cement floor, so that way I can trickle charge it on and off during the winter season. Next we have, I bought this pump. This is for draining the oil, because on my engine I discovered there is no drain hose at the bottom like some motors do. Yours may have the drain hose, and this may not be necessary for your situation, but again, I will show in a video here how I used it. Okay, and after you get the oil drained, you're going to need, for my boat, it is the Mercury 4-stroke 25W-40 oil. Now make sure you get the right one. Talk to your marine dealer if you have one nearby. Explain to them what motor you have and you're wanting to change the oil, so they will direct you to buy the right type of oil for your motor and the right quantity. Okay, but I do like to stay with the brand that's made for my motor, which is Mercury. After you get the oil out, you're going to need a new oil filter. This is the one for my boat again, maybe a little different for other models, but this is the type I'm using for this boat here. And to remove the filters, you're going to need a strap or type of oil filter wrench to take them off, because it is a little difficult after they've been on for a season. Okay, and then also switching out is the fuel filter, and this I would suggest doing yearly, especially if you're out on the water quite a lot. Again, I have a video for that, be adding into this video here, and also this gear lubricant you're going to need to change over and put in fresh, and you're going to need the kit for changing it, which is called the Marine Lower Unit Pump. Okay, so this again you'll see in the video today. Also, you're going to need to have an ability to clamp onto the lower end unit and just run the motor so you can warm up the engine, and also get ready to drain the water out of the unit and add your winterproofing fluid here. So, all right, that's, I believe, in this tube here is what I use for adding the winterproofing into my motor engine. There are other ways out there. This is the way I did it. It's not necessarily the right way or the best way, or maybe it's the way that works for me only, but you will see that that is how we get by with it. Okay, so it's a little bit of investment initially, but once you have all these items, then the only thing you have to keep buying each season is basically the oils and the filters, and you keep reusing the tools. So we'll move on to each item and go through how I winterize this step by step. Step one, what I do is when I'm winterizing, I don't need the drain plug in anymore. This one's already taken out. This is where you're going to need the ratchet or the adjustable wrench. Take your drain plug out and put it in a safe place where you're going to find it next spring. Okay? Okay. Many of you are probably thinking, where is a safe place to leave my drain plug? In the glove box, in my toolbox, where I decided to leave it was I tied it to my steering wheel. Why? Because if I forget, I launch this boat into the water, you know, and I get behind the wheel, I'm going to look down and see, oh shit, pardon my French, but there's a drain plug sitting here. I just forgot to put it in, and I can get this boat out of the water before it gets too much water into the engine area and get it reinstalled. So just my suggestion, put the drain plug somewhere where it's going to be right in your face before you drive away from the boat launch, and realize that you're taking on water the hard way. Okay, next item. Next item is what I do is I run the engine for a few minutes. And the whole purpose of this is to get the oil warm. So I find it flows a little better when you're draining it when it's warm rather than cold. So the water clamps I put on, and they go over those holes there on the lower end unit where it actually takes in the water. Hook up your garden hose there, turn on the garden hose, and start your engine. Run your engine for, again, until you watch the temperature gauge get up to normal operating temperatures, and then you can shut it down there and start the procedure with your oil change. After we've warmed up the engine, we're going to change the oil and oil filter on this Mercury engine, 4.3 MPI. There's the specs on mine. If you have something similar, then perhaps this video will help you. But hopefully it gives you an idea, even if it's not exactly the same. There are similarities between all the boats in certain ways that it will work, or maybe not work. But all right, so on mine, the oil filter. Here we have the oil filter, and in this boat here, we refill the oil with this cap area. Everything's color coded, if you haven't noticed already. So you look here, and they've color coded everything for engine oil, etc. So engine oil in, we have the filter on here, and we have the oil stick. And this is where you can see in the next segment how I drain the oil out of this boat here and replenish it. Okay. Okay, today, or this part of my video, is I'm going to show you how I'm doing the oil change on my Mercruiser engine. I ran the engine for a couple of minutes just to warm up the oil a little bit, and then what I'm going to do to extract the oil is I'm going to use this handy dandy little electric pump that I got off Amazon there, and we'll just see how really good it works or not. Okay, on this particular model of Mercruiser, the oil filter is actually conveniently at the top of the engine here for replacing. So we're going to take our oil filter wrench, remove that, crack it open a little bit, and then in the dipstick area we're going to try this filter that I got off Amazon here. Alright, now we've got the pump hooked up to the boat's battery, and I'm just using an empty container to catch the waste oil, and the tube is down the oil dipstick opening here, and we'll just, everything for oil is marked in yellow in this engine, so we'll just crack this open to make sure we get some drainage here, and switch on. as I expected, but we'll pause it here and see how long it takes. And we're still running. I can't say this pump is exactly the fastest way of getting that oil out, but eventually it's going to get it out one way or the other. All right, to add the oil, I've chosen to put the Mercury brand oil and filter back in. And for this engine, it's a 25W40. And on this 4.3 MPI engine, it's the Merc oil filter. And we're going to start adding the oil and slowly put it in. And it's better to underfill and keep adding a little bit than overfill. Okay, first off, we're going to apply some oil to the oil filter seal before we install it. You just put a nice even coat all the way around the seal with some new oil. And I'll put her back on here. And they recommend that you just put it on and just screw it till it's hand tight. Okay, and that's for the filter. And now we will just start adding the oil. Okay, adding your winterproofing or antifreeze liquid into your engine. So again, things are marked in blue if they're relating to the water that's coming through your engine. That blue cap there is a drain cap. It's also the one I use to add the fluid, winterizing fluid, into my engine. But first, what I do is I turn this blue valve to open. Now that I have my drain plug out at the bottom, that's another reason you take that out first. When I open this up, then the water will begin to drain out of the engine and out through the back, through that plug area there. That's now wide open. So you open it up, you drain your fluid out. I believe, if I recall, and you take that cap out to allow air in so the fluid will drain down. And I believe that is, I'm just looking here, so give me a moment to figure out if there was something else I needed to say here, but no, it looks like that's it. Open the valve, drain the water out. Once all the water is drained out completely, close it back up, and then what you're going to do is, when this is open, I'm not going to open it right now because everything's all winterized, but basically I made this up. You may have other ways to do it that are a little better, but I found that this tube here will fit into there, and then I pour the winterproofing into the funnel down this tube, and I pour it into the engine until I see it spilling out up here. That way I know it's full of the winterproofing liquid. Once I am satisfied it's full, then I'll replace the cap back on, and we are good for our winterproofing. Next detail is the battery. So everybody has their preference. My preference is to take it out. Some people like to leave it in but just disconnect it. So here, for my sake, I'm going to disconnect it and take it out, put it on a shelf right beside my trickle charger, and every other month give it a little bit of a trickle to keep its battery level up. Because you want to have a battery that's fully charged for the springtime and not be worrying about that. And you're probably thinking maybe, oh, why do I even have to disconnect it? Why can't I just leave it? Well, we don't really know if your boat's electrical system is doing a slow drain on the battery. Some of the accessories you may have on your dash, they're all different, but guaranteed your radio is probably doing a slow drain on your battery because it's trying to remember what stations are your favorite. So different things like that could slowly drain your battery to the point where it's dead in the springtime. So either disconnect it or take it out completely. What I've noticed on mine, just to help not mess things up, is before you start disconnecting, you can see that there's multiple wires on both terminals. Take some tape or zip tie and group them together. So when you do disconnect it, wires don't get mixed up and crossed over, because you don't want to end up putting the wrong wire on the wrong terminal come next season, because you're not going to remember where they were if they do get mixed up. Okay, so one word of advice: tape or zip tie them together, keep them in the red is red, black with black. And if you do take it out like I do, and you haven't tried this yet, these batteries weigh, I'm not going to say a ton, but they're heavy. These are marine batteries, so they're heavy, and if you've got a bad back already, get some help, or just leave it in there for the winter, but at least disconnect it. So use your ratchet set or your adjustable wrench, undo the terminals, take the terminals cables off, and that way you're good for the season there. Now that we have the battery out, cables are set aside and tied together in their groups. The next part of the video we're going to be looking at is the fuel filter. Fuel filter on my engine is down. If you're facing the engine from inside the boat, it's on the lower left hand side. And down here, we're going to run the video on the replacement of that. And just to show you down here, I don't know if you can see it or not. Actually, there's nothing to see because there is no oil drain tube on my engine that I could find anywhere. So that's why I drain it from the top. So next part of the video is going to be the fuel filter and how I swapped it out there. Good day, boaters. So today we're going to do a fuel filter change on my Larson that has the Mercury 4.3 liter inboard engine. And today for that change, I've picked up from a local Mercury dealer the actual Mercury product filter. Now on this engine, the fuel filter is down on the left hand side near the bottom, and we're going to remove that and install the new one there. The box already comes with instructions on it to let you know how to install it, by saying that you remove the old gasket and filter, make sure there's a thin coat of engine oil on the new filter's gasket, and that it's seated properly. Fill it with fuel and to prevent air from being in the system, and screw it on, and making sure the gasket comes in contact, and run the engine and check for any leaks. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Alright, this filter was a little tough to get off by hand, whoever put it on previously. So I've actually used an oil filter wrench to take it off, and this is turning from, to take it off, I'm turning it clockwise. Now with the fuel filter removed, we're going to apply some new oil to the gasket there. All right, and now we're going to put some new fuel in it before we install it back into the engine here, just so we don't get any air blockage in the fuel system there. All right, now that we have the fuel filter with the fuel in it, gasket oiled, we're going to screw it back on, and it's going counterclockwise to tighten. Once we get that on there, we'll use the filter wrench just to snug it up, and that will complete the changing of the fuel filter system. In the next segment coming up, we're going to be doing the lower drive gear oil. This is the bottle to tell you how the level is. So you're going to need to make sure after you've changed the drive lube that you have also made sure that this is in the proper operating level. So the segment coming up after that will show that part of it there. The last part of this video is changing the lower end gear oil. So down here is the drain plug, and the next segment of this video I'm going to demonstrate how I changed that oil. And also, one thing to note is it's always a good idea to get fresh O-rings for those drain plug screws so they're not cracking or allowing it to leak each season there. Okay, so that will be the next video. And overall, I think just to show where everything is. Yep, okay. So next video is changing out your own lower end gear lube oil. Good day, Larson boat owners. I'm going to show you again today, same as my video from last year, but we're going to do the gear oil change on the lower end unit. It's not that messy and it's not that hard to do, so we're gonna go step by step and show you how easy it is to do it yourself. Okay, alright, you're gonna need a couple of things here. First off, obviously, is your marine lower unit pump. This one I bought from Canadian Tire last year. It's not that expensive, and as long as you remember where you put it from last year, you keep reusing it every year to do your own oil changes there. The other thing you'll need is your gear lube. I buy the Mercury brand just so I know I'm putting Mercury approved oil in my lower unit. One thing to note when you look at these bottles is you got to make sure, depending on what your horsepower is for your engine, you want to buy the right gear lube. So this one, as you see on the label just below the big print, it's rated for engines 75 horsepower and higher. Okay, so just check the fine print before you walk out of the store with that one. And over here I've already taken out the screws on the upper and lower part of the unit and drained the oil into the pan there. So now we're going to hook up the pump and start refilling it with new oil. Okay, hold on. Alright, now with this pump setup, they give you two sizes of adapters depending on the threads on your lower unit. I've picked the one that threads in properly, and then they also give you two lengths of tubing to go into your bottle. I picked the one that will go down as far as it can on this particular bottle, and you just thread it on. Till just like the cap that you took off, and then all you simply have to do is start pumping this. There it goes. And that's it. You just keep pumping until it fills. And you also make sure you make the line on your pump secure. After pumping about a bottle and 3/4, you should see it start coming out of the top, and that's your point to stop and start putting your new washers on your bolts. I still have to remove that washer out of there. Bottom one's out, and for $3 it's worth putting new washers in for peace of mind. Right, and once you get your washer put back on the bolt, put the top one in first to create a little bit of a vacuum. So when you take the bottom area out and put the bolt back in, you don't get all your oil spewing out all at once there. So that's it for the lower end. You've got new oil and you've got new washers for the next season. Now we'll go to one last step in the engine area, and that will be it. Now the last step is in your engine area. On this particular Merc drive, it's on the right hand side when you're facing it. This is the drive lube monitor bottle. So here it's kind of like your on your rad here, kind of you can keep tabs of if for any reason you're losing oil during the season. This is obviously down because I have drained it. So you just take some of your oil that you have left over, and you can see here, hopefully, it's got a fill level. So we're going to top it up to where it's saying it needs to be in the operating range. Okay. Okay, now we've added our gear lube oil to the operating bottle here, and we filled it up to the operating range. So in the spring, when we're running it, we'll just check this to be sure that it's still in the operating range, in case it draws a little bit more down into the area that we filled. Okay, so this is it for how to change your gear lube oil. I hope you enjoyed this video of this Larson LSR 2000 with its 4.3 liter Mercury. And if you like the video, like it on YouTube, or hit that subscribe button for more videos like this. Thanks guys, and enjoy your winter. One last thing to consider when you're putting your boat away is how much fuel did you leave in the gas tank before you took it out of the water? Did you pretty well drain it on the water, or are you parking it on your trailer or wherever you park it with a few gallons or liters of gasoline left. So one thing to consider is there's many different brands out there, so I'm not going to say which one, but you may want to consider putting some fuel stabilizer in your gas tank for the winter, just so that gasoline is okay in the springtime that's left over, so when you start it up you have fewer issues. And that's it about fuel storage. Well, boaters, that's about it. It's not too complicated, but it's not simple, easy. Just have to use common sense. Take your time. You don't have to be a rocket scientist or a Starfleet Academy graduate. You just have to know the basics. If it doesn't look right, it probably isn't right. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video, if you stayed with me all this time. If you have, like the video, even subscribe. Help the channel out, and we will see you on the water. Until next time, this is Captain Robert, captain of the USS Corban, boating out of Lake Simcoe. Take care, boaters. Stay safe on the water. And I've always heard from one radio channel, beer on the pier, water on the water. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.